This week, back in 1967, a brand new bridge over the Mississippi River was open to traffic. Finally opened. There had been a lot of delays, so many issues, that even the Missouri State Highway Commission called its documentary The Bridge That Wouldn't Be.
In the chill pre-dawn hours of November 9th, 1967, workmen were busy with the final cleanup. For days, crews had worked around the clock getting ready for the official opening of the Poplar Street Bridge, scheduled for high noon.
Notice what he called it? Yep, the Poplar Street Bridge. Other names just didn't stick. Not then, not now. The other downtown bridges, Eads and MacArthur, were named for people, but they were old and charging tolls and just not up to the task of handling traffic in the age of the interstate. And planning for a new bridge began in the 1950s, with Missouri and Illinois both agreeing to the project in 1958.
It had to be simple in design and elegantly proportioned to add beauty, yet not obstruct the view of the river, the skyline, and the city's handsome waterfront development centered around its gleaming gateway arch.
The Globe Democrat reported that arch architect Eero Saarinen approved of what was termed a harmonious development.
Nor was the new bridge to detract from the classic beauty of the Eads Bridge upstream.
With the Gateway Arch and the new baseball stadium in the works, St. Louis was counting on a tourism boom, and the bridge would be a big part of that. Preliminary work was underway by 1960, choosing the route, the approaches, the land acquisition. But even after construction began, the completion date kept getting pushed back.
Workmen refused to work in temperatures under 15 degrees, and there were days of biting cold.
And in 1965, floods.
The damage was tremendous, the cleanup job disheartening, the delay costly. It was like starting all over. Then, 10 barges broke loose from their tow and played havoc with the steel erection on Pier 3, almost dumping the north span into the river. A fire of unknown origin struck the top of Pier 6. The heat was so intense that reinforcing steel curled like ribbons. The damage ran high, and the project fell 2 more months behind schedule. Construction on the Poplar Street Bridge and the Gateway Arch had started about the same time in 1963, with the expectation that both projects would be completed together. The arch graced the skyline, but the bridge couldn't seem to get off the ground.
By 1967, the bridge was nearing completion, and the plan, or really the hope, was that it would be open in time to handle traffic for the World Series, Cardinals and Red Sox. But nope, another last-minute problem.
Mainly because the epoxy placed on top of the zinc coating failed to stick properly. It had to be removed. And the on-again, off-again bridge opening was off again.
It wasn't until November 9th that the new Interstate Highway Bridge was finally doing its job.
8 lanes of traffic began streaming across the only toll-free bridge between downtown St. Louis, Missouri, and East St. Louis, Illinois.
Over the years, several names for the bridge were suggested. Eisenhower, who started the interstate highway system, Kennedy, after his assassination, and finally, St. Louis named it for Bernard F. Dickman, the 1930s mayor who started the riverfront clearance, even though nobody really had naming rights and East St. Louis could have come up with its own name. Didn't matter, though. Nobody really called it the Bernard F. Dickman Gateway Bridge, or after the name change in 2013, the William Clay Bridge. Today it handles traffic for 2 interstates, and yet in St. Louis, we still give it a perhaps appropriately understated street name. It was, after all, designed to be functional, not flashy, when it opened 57 years ago. Better late than never. This week in St. Louis history.